2 in the afternoon in western Burkina Faso. You cannot hold your hand against the underside of a corrugated iron roof. It's around 50 degrees up there, and the room beneath it is an oven with a door in it. That sheet of metal cost the family more than a whole season's harvest. It was rolled in a factory 1,000 kilometers away, and in 7 or 8 rainy seasons, the rust will have finished it. Now look at this. A roof built of nothing but mud and human hands. It has been standing for 3,200 years. Those are the granaries behind the mortuary temple of Ramses II at Luxor. Look closely at the brickwork and you'll see something strange. The course is lean. They were laid at an angle, one against the next, with no wooden frame underneath to hold them up while they set. No timber, no formwork, no steel. A roof that builds itself as it goes. So here's the question this episode is chasing. How does a Pharaonic granary roof end up over a farmer's bedroom in Burkina Faso in the 21st century? And why did it take a French stonemason and a Burkinabè farmer to put it there? Start with the trap, because the trap is the whole story. For centuries, the Sahel roofed itself with what it had. You laid beams of hardwood across earth walls, then packed earth on top. Cool, cheap, local, repairable. But that roof depends on trees. And in the Sahel, the trees have been going for 50 years, cut for fuel, cleared for fields, killed by drought. Good structural hardwood is now scarce, expensive, and in many places illegal to fell. So families did the rational thing. They bought the modern roof, corrugated iron sheet on imported timber purlins, and that decision quietly reorganized the whole village economy. A tin roof has to be paid for in cash, and cash, in a subsistence farming economy, means selling the harvest, or sending a son to the gold mines, or borrowing. The money then leaves. It goes to the importer, the transporter, the factory abroad. Almost none of it stays where it was earned. And what the family gets for it is a roof that conducts heat straight into the room, roars like a drum in the rain, and starts rusting almost immediately. That is the trap. The traditional roof has run out of wood. The modern roof drains money out of the village and cooks the people underneath it. Both directions are losing. The obvious fix had already been tried, and it had already failed. In the 1940s, the Egyptian architect Hassan Fathi went back to those Luxor granaries and rebuilt the technique for the modern age. He designed a whole village of earth vaults and domes at New Gurna near Luxor. Architecturally, it was a masterpiece. Socially, it did not take. It was built for people rather than by them. The residents largely didn't want it, didn't own the process, and couldn't or wouldn't reproduce it themselves. Much of New Gurna was abandoned or demolished. That's the lesson that haunts this field. A demonstration house proves nothing. Free houses prove nothing. The only thing that scales is a technique that ordinary local builders can sell at a profit to ordinary local customers without anyone's help. Which brings us to Boromo, a small town on the road between Ouagadougou and Bobo-Dioulasso in the late 1990. Thomas Granier is a mason from the south of France, not an architect, not an engineer, a man who has spent his life with stone and lime and a trowel. He'd read about the Nubian vault and want to know if the technique still worked in a place that genuinely needed it. Séri Youlou is a farmer in Boromo. He's not a professional builder either. He's a man with a compound to roof and no money for tin. They met. They built one vault on Youlou's own land out of bricks made from the earth of that same land. It stood. It stayed cool. Neighbors came to look. In 2000, they gave the thing a name. Association la Voûte Nubienne, the Nubian Vault Association. Here's how the roof actually works, and it is genuinely clever. You build your 2 side walls and 1 solid end wall. Then, against the flat face of that end wall, you lay your first arch of mud bricks, not upright, but tilted back, leaning on it. Wet earth mortar is sticky enough to hold a single brick in place, while the next one goes on beside it. Each leaning ring supports the ring that follows. The vault marches forward through the air on its own. The curve isn't guesswork. The mason swings it with a length of string pinned to a pivot, a compass made of cord, so every arch repeats the same shape, the shape that carries its own weight in pure compression. The bricks are made on site, from the soil under your feet, dried in the sun. The mortar is the same earth. The finish is earth plaster, then a hard render and a parapet with spouts, so the rains run off instead of soaking in. Total imported content, essentially nothing. No cement, no steel, no timber beams, no corrugated sheet. Because a thick earth vault has real mass, it does what metal cannot. It absorbs the day's heat instead of transmitting it. Rooms under these roofs are commonly 5 or 6 degrees cooler at the worst hour of the afternoon. No fan, no air conditioning, no electricity at all. And this is the pivot of the whole story. The roof was never the hard part. Granier and Youlou worked out early that they were not in the business of building houses. They were in the business of building a market. Their model has 3 words in it: a roof, a skill, a market. The association doesn't build your house. It trains masons, and it trains them the way trades have always been learned, as apprentices on real paying job sites, under a working mason, for a client who is spending their own money. The customer pays the mason directly. The house is not a gift. It is a transaction between 2 people who live in the same district, which is precisely why it survives when the project vehicles stop coming. A vault costs roughly what a tin roof costs, sometimes less. The difference is where the money goes. Almost all of it stays inside the local economy. To the brickmakers, the laborers, the mason, the water carriers. It gets spent again in the same market. And crucially, the work happens in the dry season exactly when there's no farming to do and no income coming in. The building trade became the off-season job that stopped young men leaving for the mines and the cities. From one vault on one farmer's compound, the count is now past 10,000 earth-vaulted buildings, houses, schools, clinics, storerooms, mosques and churches across 5 Sahel countries. Thousands of masons and apprentices have been trained. Tens of millions of euros of construction spending has stayed inside villages that would otherwise have exported it to a steel mill on another continent. Now, the honest part. This is not a technology that solves everything. A single Nubian vault spans a limited width, roughly 3 meters, so bigger buildings mean several vaults side by side, which shapes what you can design. The render needs checking and patching after the rains. Build it badly, skimp the drainage, and an earth roof will punish you for it. And there's a perception problem that no amount of engineering fixes on its own. In much of the Sahel, cement and shining metal read as progress, and earth reads as poverty, even when the earth building is measurably better to live in. Growth has been steady rather than explosive, because a market built one mason and one customer at a time grows the way markets actually grow. Slowly, then locally, then everywhere at once. But look at what's coming. The Sahel's population is among the fastest growing on Earth, and the overwhelming majority of the buildings that will exist there in 2050 have not been built yet. Every one of those roofs is a choice: money out and heat in, or money in and heat out. And the technique that offers the second option isn't patented, isn't licensed, and isn't owned by anyone. It's 3,000 years old. It's made of the ground you're standing on, and it fits inside the head of one well-trained mason who can teach the next one. That's what Thomas Granier and Séri Youlou actually built in Boromo. Not a house, a trade. If you want the full breakdown how the vault is laid course by course, the real cost comparison against tin, the training model, and the sources and figures behind everything in this episode, it's all in the link in the description. Go and look at the brickwork. It's more elegant than any of us were taught to expect from mud.